Hello, let's discuss the effects of human activities on the St. John River estuarine system. I'm Lisa, and I'm here with Brett and Patrick. The St. John River is located in the province of New Brunswick, while the estuary is located northwest of the city of St. John. We will look at the anthropogenic effects of the St. John River estuarine system, including land use, the use of hydraulic dams throughout the river system, along with the estuary's physical and chemical properties. The St. John River is the second largest river in northeastern North America, with a basin area of over 55,000 square kilometers. The headwaters begin in northern Maine, then flow northeast into New Brunswick, eventually draining into the Bay of Fundy. 51% of the St. John River Basin is in New Brunswick. Human activity is strongly felt throughout the St. John River watershed and the estuarine system. Impacts of those activities can be seen in the increased sedimentation levels in the Long Reach Basin and have an impact on marine life, such as the short-nosed sturgeon. Additional human impacts, which may have had a bearing on the threat facing these fish, could be caused by pollution from pulp and paper mills, farming, and forestry activities along the river. Estuaries are, by definition, slow-moving streams and associated brackish wetlands that form where streams meet the sea. Like inland wetlands, estuarine habitats are often highly productive. What makes the St. John estuary so remarkable is the massive tidal forcing competing against the seasonally variable freshwater discharge. This interplay is strongly influenced by the constraining morphology, most significantly the constriction at the mouth by the reversing falls, the presence of which prevents this estuarine system from being completely tidally dominated. The underlying bathymetric controls on the two longitudinal troughs, the Long Reach and the Kennebecasis, are quite different. The Kennebecasis remains a regionally deep, greater than 30 meters, sediment-starved, fjord-like estuary, whereas the Long Reach is a salt wedge estuary which has clearly been filled in from the upstream end, presumably by sediment coming down the St. John River system due to anthropogenic influences. This slide is showing the salt wedge estuary and the fjord-like estuaries mentioned. These two basins in the St. John River estuary are substantially different, due in minor part to naturally occurring characteristics such as the salt water content, while the majority of the differences are seen due to effects from human-related activities contributing to sedimentation and drastically altering the habitats for marine life. Brett will now further expand on the effects of urbanism and industry on the estuary.
As Lisa described, there are multiple physical and chemical characteristics to the St. John River Basin that have made it ideal for use throughout its history. However, with an introduction of people comes the human effect. The population of the St. Johns River Basin has changed a lot over the years. In 2001, it accounted for 43% of the total population, but in 1971, it accounted for 47%. This is because at that point in time, the resources were invaluable to the society. There has always been an even distribution between rural and urban areas in that area. Land use has an effect on the entire basin. This graph represents the different sections of land use and divides them depending on how much area they occupy. The forest area is mostly new forest because significant areas of the basin have been subject to logging for timber and pulp for several years. The St. John River Valley hardwood forest once covered much of the basin but has been reduced due to logging, settlements, agriculture, and dam reservoirs, and now only covers about 1% of the land within this region, and is usually small sized and isolated. Although it says the forest area is 83% and development is 2%, this does not account for small settlements. The basin has a wide range of industries built within it. Some of these include saw and pulp mills to the northern part, and oil and gas production to the southern part. Most of these industries have released at least a small amount of effluent into the basin, which has an effect on the ecological system further downstream. These industries affect the water's epilineon by increasing turbidity through eutrophication. Along with land use by many different industries, the basin is also riddled with multiple dams, all introducing many different ecological damages. These damages cause problems such as flooding areas which originally should not be flooded and blocking aquatic migration paths which affect marine life. For instance, with the release of warm water from the flooded side of the dam to the river on the opposite side, fish get the cue to hatch in waters that are warmer than the river downstream. Therefore, they hatch and then die, majorly affecting the fish's population. A major issue with society's use of the watershed is the effluent released. Nitrogen and phosphorus, even in small amounts, have a large effect on any water system. This chart represents the nitrogen and phosphorus being released between 2004 and 2009 by multiple different industries. Although the amount has been relatively reduced over the years, they still have caused some irreparable damage to the basin that cannot be repaired. Preferably adding no more phosphorus and nitrogen than is being released naturally would be ideal. Fishing is an effect that humans have on an ecosystem that has not been taken as serious. Between 1860 and 1960, there has been a very wide range of change in the fishing industry. A lot of fish were caught in 1860 and very few in 1960. This is because of the increase in development around the basin, and it's a prime example of society taking things that they think are unlimited, in fact, when they are not unlimited. The fishing industry has caused the extinction of some fish in the Nashwauk, Oromocto, and Cannon areas. Humans have a major effect on multiple aspects of an ecosystem. One of the main species affected are fish. In the St. Johns River Basin, short-nosed sturgeon are being impacted by humans.
As you can see, human impact has played a detrimental role in the St. John River estuarine system. This case study of the short-nosed sturgeon is a prime example of the human impacts upon the St. John River estuarine system. There are 19 population segments of the short-nosed sturgeon along the eastern coast of North America from New Brunswick to Florida. The short-nosed sturgeon is significantly more abundant in the northern portions of its range than it is in the south. Short-nosed sturgeons are restricted to the St. John River system in Canada, where spawning requires unhindered access to freshwater spawning sites. Adult short-nosed sturgeon generally utilize separate summer and wintering areas, though greatest abundance occurs in estuaries. The short-nosed sturgeon was listed as an endangered species throughout its range on March 11, 1967, under the Endangered Species Preservation Act of 1966. Short-nosed sturgeon has been described as a domorous species, which spends most of its life in brackish or marine waters, but migrates into upstream freshwater areas of coastal rivers for spawning. Short-nosed sturgeons are long-living species of fish, with the maximum known age being 67 years for females and 30 years for males. Short-nosed sturgeons do not compete strongly with other species and has no real known predators. The short-nosed sturgeon were never a target fishery. However, they were captured with Atlantic sturgeon as part of a large sturgeon fishery, harvest of which exceeded 3,000 metric tons per year until the 1880s, when overfishing, industrial development, and damping of rivers began to negatively impact stocks. Risks to short-nosed sturgeons include hydroelectric facilities, bycatch and commercial fisheries, pollution from pulp mills, as well as farming and forestry activities along the St. John River. This is a map showing the lower portion of the St. John River system, as well as the Mactac Dam. The construction of the Mactac Dam in 1967 has led to limited spawning of short-nosed sturgeons in the river above the dam. It has been stated there is no imminent threat that would lead to elimination of the population in a very short period of time. In general, water quality of the St. John River has improved over the last 30 years due to investments in water treatment by the industries and municipalities along its banks. Legislation has also helped to protect the short-nosed sturgeon population. The short-nosed sturgeon is on the way to recovery as a valuable species, and that, with assistance of the government, it may be delisted by 2024.
Based on the information that has been discussed, it is apparent that many different industries, including oil and gas production, forestry, hydroelectric dams, sawmills and pulp mills, and additional human activities, have a negative effect or negative impact on the St. Johns River estuary system. Mainstream acceptance and growing practices of sustainable systems and techniques will go a long way to reducing our anthropogenic influences on this estuary. Thank you.